Sound of cold wind, crickets, distant thunder. Last time, a hungry pack of hyenas ambushed a lone buffalo. But what they didn't know is that the herd remembers. Sound of a limping buffalo, heavy breathing, hyenas laughing in the distance. The moon casts a pale, eerie light over the blood-stained grass. Here, a lone buffalo, wounded and exhausted, limps through the tall grass, his breath coming in ragged gasps. In the enveloping darkness, the chilling laughter of hyenas echoes, a promise of a hunt not yet finished. The leader of the pack, a shadow among shadows, hisses with anticipation. He escaped once, but tonight, we finish it. The hyenas, a dozen strong, moved like ghosts through the night. Their paws made no sound on the dry earth, their eyes glowing like embers in the dark. They were silent, patient, circling their prey, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They were the masters of this domain, the bringers of a swift and brutal end. The air grew thick with tension, each passing second, a drumbeat counting down to the inevitable clash. The pack fanned out, their movements coordinated, a testament to years of hunting together. Each hyena knew its role, a cog in a perfectly oiled machine of death. Their jaws, capable of crushing bone, were ready. Their hunger was a gnawing fire in their bellies, driving them forward. But the buffalo, though injured, was not defeated. His senses were on high alert, his ears twitching at every whisper of the wind. He heard a faint growl, a rustle in the grass that didn't belong. He lowered his massive horns, a defiant fortress of bone and muscle, and snorted a warning into the cold night air. "You think I'm alone this time?" he seemed to say. And just as the hyenas prepared to close their trap, the landscape behind the wounded warrior began to shift. Silhouettes, dark and immense, emerged from the shadows. One by one, they appeared 5 massive buffalo, their eyes reflecting the moonlight with a silent, burning promise. They were a wall of muscle and fury, standing shoulder to shoulder. The wild never forgets its own. The herd had returned. Sound of a sudden, sharp crack of thunder, followed by heavy, rhythmic drums and dramatic music. The standoff broke. The hyenas charged, a blur of fur and flashing teeth. They came from all sides, a chaotic wave of aggression aimed at their single, wounded target. But the herd was ready. They formed a tight, impenetrable circle around their injured brother, their horns a thicket of sharp points facing outward. The night exploded into a symphony of primal violence. The narrator's voice rises with the action. Hyenas attack with cunning. Buffalo fight with unity. The hyenas darted in, testing the defenses, looking for any weakness. One lunged, only to be matched by a powerful kick that sent it flying through the air, landing with a wet thud in the mud. Another, more daring, managed to latch onto a buffalo's leg, its teeth sinking deep. Blood sprayed across the ground, a dark stain on the battlefield. The scent of it drove the pack into a frenzy. "Don't back off, bring it down." The hyena leader snarled, his voice a gravelly command that cut through the chaos. The night descended into pure anarchy. The cries of the attackers, the deep, guttural growls of the defenders, and the booming echo of thunder all merged into a single, terrifying roar that swept across the plains. This was no longer a hunt. It was a war. The battle raged, a whirlwind of dust and desperation. The hyenas, relentless and agile, continued their assault. They were a coordinated force, nipping at heels, attempting to isolate a weaker member from the protective circle. A young buffalo, less experienced, found itself momentarily separated from the herd. Instantly, 3 hyenas were on it, a flurry of snapping jaws and sharp claws. The young buffalo stumbled, its legs buckling under the onslaught. It let out a cry of pain and fear as it fell to the ground. Seeing this, a fire ignited in the eyes of the herd's leader. With a roar that shook the very ground, the colossal bull charged. He was an avalanche of pure fury, a living battering ram. He smashed into one of the hyenas with the force of a locomotive, the sickening crack of breaking ribs echoing through the night. Without slowing, he hooked his horns under another, flinging it effortlessly into a dense thorn bush, where it yelped in agony. The narrator's voice becomes intense, matching the escalating violence. The ground shook with fury. The herd was no longer defending. They were avenging. This single act of explosive power turned the tide. The wounded buffalo, the one who started this all, watched from the center of the circle. The pain from his injuries, the memory of his near-death experience, it all boiled over. Pain turned to power. Fear turned to fire. With a guttural roar of his own, he limped forward, gathering speed, his eyes locked on a single target, the hyena leader. He charged directly at his nemesis. The camera slows, capturing the moment of impact. Dust and blood exploded into the air as two forces of nature collided. The world seemed to hold its breath. The hyena leader, once the confident orchestrator of the hunt, now tried to crawl away. His body was broken, his arrogance shattered. He was wounded and weak, leaving a trail of blood in the dirt. The injured buffalo, now the avenger, limped over and stood above him, his massive frame blocking out the moon. The hyena leader let out a soft, defeated growl, his voice barely a whisper. "This isn't over," the buffalo snorted, his chest heaving, his breath creating clouds of steam in the cold air. "It ends now." With a final, decisive movement, he stomped the ground. The hyena went limp, and then silence. A profound, heavy silence fell over the battlefield. The frantic laughter of the hyenas had faded into the wind, replaced only by the heavy, ragged breath of victory. As the first light of dawn painted the horizon in hues of orange and gold, the sun rose over the savannah. The herd stood tall, their bodies bloodied and bruised, but they were alive. They were together. The injured buffalo, his quest for vengeance complete, looked out toward the endless plains, a silent sentinel watching the birth of a new day. The narrator's tone softens, becoming reflective. In the wild, survival is never guaranteed, but unity makes the impossible possible. The camera slowly zooms out, revealing the full aftermath of the battle. Vultures circled high above, patient witnesses to the brutal cycle of life and death. The bodies of the fallen hyenas littered the ground. The rest of the pack was gone, scattered into the shadows from which they came. And as the sun rose again, the savannah whispered one truth: even the hunters can be hunted. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story of survival and revenge, do you forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more wild battles and suspenseful stories from the heart of nature. We'll see ya in the next one.